Are you tired of guessing whether or not a gluten-free diet is right for you? Do you want to know for certain whether or not you need to avoid gluten to maintain and achieve optimal health? If so, genetic testing for gluten sensitivity may be the answer you've been looking for. With just a simple cheek swab, you can learn whether or not you have a genetic predisposition to gluten sensitivity and celiac disease. And though this test cannot diagnose you, it can help you understand whether or not you are predisposed to developing gluten-related health issues. This knowledge can be incredibly valuable for those who are looking to make informed decisions about their diet and overall health. Researchers estimate that gluten sensitivity is much more common than previously thought. Some studies show that as many as 13% of the population is gluten sensitive. And contrary to what your doctor may have told you, gluten-induced damage is not isolated to the GI tract. Here's what world-leading expert Dr. Peter Green of Columbia University has to say about it. Recent studies are showing that gluten sensitivity may be much more common than previously thought. It may in fact be a separate disease entity that involves different organs and different mechanisms than celiac disease. The acceptance of gluten sensitivity as a valid condition has evolved. Another group of researchers from Oxford said this: gluten sensitivity is characterized by abnormal immunological responsiveness to ingested gluten in genetically susceptible individuals. Celiac disease or gluten-sensitive enteropathy is only one aspect of a range of possible manifestations of gluten sensitivity. In some individuals, gluten sensitivity was shown to manifest solely with neurological dysfunction. And that's not all. Scientists have confirmed that gluten can damage the heart, thyroid, liver, joints, bones, muscles, brain, nerves, and skin. Gluten has been demonstrated to both cause and to worsen certain types of autoimmune disease. Knowing whether or not you have genetic predisposition to gluten can help you decide whether or not you should commit to the diet, as so many people experiencing autoimmune symptoms see tremendous benefits when cutting gluten out. And perhaps most importantly, genetic testing for gluten sensitivity may help you to avoid the potential long-term health risks associated with a gluten-filled diet. As I stated earlier, studies have shown that those with gluten sensitivity are at high risk for a number of illnesses. Perhaps one of the most alarming statistics comes from a study published in the prestigious medical journal Gastroenterology, where researchers found that gluten-sensitive individuals with celiac disease who continued to eat gluten had a nearly 4-fold increased risk for death. Look, gluten is no joke. This test measures both the HLA-DQ alpha-1 and beta-1 gene alleles for celiac, but unlike other online DNA tests, it also measures for non-celiac gluten sensitivity gene predispositions. So if you're ready to take control of your health and make informed decisions about your diet, you are a simple cheek swab away from knowing if a gluten-free diet can help you reach optimal wellness. No Grain, No Pain it's all about the health epidemic that we face in the United States. Autoimmune disease this is one of the biggest myths that people believe is that heart disease and cancer kill more people. But the reality is that autoimmune disease actually kills more people. There are 46 million people with autoimmune disease. And statistically speaking, those with autoimmunity are going to die 20 years younger. Statistically speaking, those with autoimmune disease are going to have a much, much poorer quality of life as they get past the 4th decade. So their lifespan is shortened and their quality of life is dramatically reduced. They're on an average of 5 or more medications. And there's just no end or solution in sight. Mainstream medicine, with all its valiant efforts at doing the right thing, has really created a scenario that just doesn't work. They've created a paradigm that doesn't work. If it worked, we'd have people with less autoimmune disease. We'd have people that didn't have as much pain. We'd have less people in pain, and we just don't have those things. So we have to analyze what we're currently doing, and we have to say, is this working or is it not working? And I think the answer to that question is pretty obvious. It's in the outcome. And the outcome is we have more autoimmune disease today than we've ever had. We have more chronic pain today than we've ever had. 100 million Americans suffer with some form of chronic pain. The CDC announced a very, very strong warning. This is the first time they've done this. They announced a guideline and a warning to say doctors shouldn't be prescribing prescription opiates because the drugs kill more people and provide less benefit. So in essence, this is kind of an unprecedented thing where our governing bodies that are supposed to protect us have come out and finally said the drugs kill more people. There's about 16,000 deaths a year from prescription opiates. Beyond that, we've got an epidemic of people being addicted to them. So not only do they have the potential to kill, but they have a huge potential for addiction and wrecking the quality of life in a different way altogether. And then we have this other model. So we've got prescription opiates that are used to treat chronic pain for a vast majority of people that have it. But then we have this other side to pain medication, and that's using a class of medication called non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, oftentimes shortened as NSAIDs. And NSAIDs, like ibuprofen and aspirin and naproxen and Mobic and Celebrex, these medications, they block inflammation and therefore they help to reduce pain. But one of the fundamental problems with these drugs is they cause an increased risk for heart disease, which is arguably one of the top killers in the United States. But one of the other problems with these medications is they actually erode the stomach and the intestinal lining. So you take that person who, maybe they've got a knee pain or a shoulder problem. Maybe they've always kind of dealt with it by popping an aspirin or popping an ibuprofen. And they've done it for 5, 10, 15 years. And then they end up with gastrointestinal problems, heartburn, esophageal reflux disease, because over time the medication erodes the lining of their gut and erodes the lining of their stomach, making those tissues more susceptible to damage. And so now we have another drug that comes into the equation. Now the doctor says, oh, you're having heartburn. You've been taking pain medications. You've got heartburn now. Let's put you on an antacid. And then the problem with antacids is they increase your risk of infection. They block magnesium and they block vitamin B12 and they block calcium and iron absorption. So we do that for a few years, and now we have somebody who ends up severely malnourished. They may be eating enough of the nutrients, but their bodies just aren't capable of absorbing the nutrients because of the medication side effects. And the side effects from being nutritionally devoid or having nutritional deficit, for many of those, the B12 deficiency causes neuropathic pain. So it can cause nerve pain, which is a form of chronic pain. So here we're back in this vicious circle where we started with pain. We treated pain. The treatment of pain led to another side effect, which then led to another medication, which then led to a nutritional deficit that subsequently caused a different new kind of pain, which now requires another pain medication. So at what point do we really step back from this and look at it from a 10,000-foot view and really analyze it and say, this isn't the right move, this isn't the right step? Because with anyone with chronic pain, there is no artificial chemical manipulation that we can do or prescribe as doctors that's going to bring about a resolution in why that pain is there. I think that's where we start from a fundamental perspective, is why is the pain there in the first place? And if we understand what that is, then the medications become very, very unnecessary. And I think if we look at this honestly, there's a lot of people that don't want that. There's a lot of politicians, there's a lot of drug companies and manufacturers, there's a lot of doctors, a lot of hospital systems that just don't want that answer. They don't want that solution. It's a conflict of interest for their bottom line. And that's not to say that all of those entities are just out to make money or out there to be malicious. I think the system is what the system is, but at the same time, we can't keep going the way that we're going. So we have to look at this differently, and we have to come back and say, if we're going to treat chronic pain, if we're going to treat autoimmune disease meaningfully, we have to look at where it comes from. One of the reasons I started the No Grain, No Pain initiative, and one of the reasons why I wrote No Grain, No Pain, was to answer these questions. My experience is I've been practicing clinically for 15 years. I started in rheumatology at the VA hospital in Houston. And what I saw time and time again, what I saw over and over again, were patients that came through the door that never got better. My attending physician at the time, he was a really nice guy, really smart guy, but he was also a very bitter guy. And I think one of the reasons why is he was treating people consistently without results. Now you could imagine in your job if every day you went to work and it didn't matter and what you did didn't help anybody out, didn't achieve a greater result, didn't really accomplish anything. Today on Dr. Osborne's Zone, we're talking about the best way to beat autoimmune disease naturally. This is part 2, so make sure you join us. We're also going to be answering your questions as well as sharing some amazing stories. Can't wait to see you on the other side. You unlock this door with the key of compassion. Beyond it is another world, a world of science, a world of common sense, a world of sanity. You're moving into a land of both empathy and ethics, of nutritional knowledge and empowerment. You've just crossed over into Dr. Osborne's Zone. Welcome to Dr. Osborne's Zone. In this part 2 of the New Year, January kickoff of No Grain, No Pain, the challenge of all dietary challenges to end autoimmune disease. So if you missed last week's episode, go back and make sure you check that one out because it's a precursor to tonight's show. But we're going to dive into phase 2 of the No Grain, No Pain Reverse Your Autoimmune Disease Challenge now. So let's jump into it. So just as a refresher course from last week, we talked about days 1 to 15. You had certain foods that you wanted to eliminate. Of course, all grains are out, hence no grain, no pain. All pseudograins and all foods that contain them. So the obvious, the beer, the pasta, the cereal, the donuts, the bread, the cakes, the crackers, the cookies, etc. We're eating all meats. If you're not a vegetarian, we're eating meats that are not grain-fed predominantly. We're eating meats that are free-range, organic, wild-caught. And we're also avoiding all dairy products, including fermented dairy like yogurt and kefir. We're also avoiding processed and GMO foods. So if it comes in a package and it's full of a GMO-based ingredient or has terms on the label you can't pronounce, it's not part of your diet in the No Grain, No Pain Challenge. We're avoiding all soy, including fermented soy products, and then we're also avoiding all manufactured sugars. This is processed sugars, not natural sugars, so you're okay to eat fruit. You're just not okay to eat, cane sugar, beet sugar, corn sugar, and a number of the other artificial sweeteners. You've got sucralose and you've got sweet and low and aspartame and the like. So those are out during these first 15 days. So we started with these rules during days 1 through 15. You should be, coming into your second week here, but let's go in, let's prep you for next week. As you go into day 15 through 30, what else are we looking at eliminating? We're eliminating a few more things. So number 1, we're taking out vegetables in the nightshade family. This would include things like eggplant, potato, peppers, goji berries are a nightshade. Tobacco is a nightshade, although, we have rules already here that tobacco is part of the nightshade family. So we're avoiding the nightshade family of foods. As a general rule, the nightshades contain solenoids and lectins that can stimulate an inflammatory response in many people and can be a trigger for the autoimmune disease, so we're avoiding them. We're also avoiding all legumes. Now, peanuts are a legume. A lot of people think peanuts are a nut, and they're not. Peanuts are a legume. So we want to be aware that you're avoiding basically beans and lentils in this next 2-week part of the challenge for several reasons. Number 1, lectins. Number 2, a lot of your oxalates and phytates, which are anti-nutritive compounds that can cause mineral deficiency. And so those of you with gluten sensitivity, especially that are new into the diet, we need to get highly dense, nutrient-rich foods that are easy to digest. This family here, the lentils and legumes, are very challenging for digestion. So we want to get your digestive tract back online up to full speed. And so that's why these are being avoided, aside from the fact that they contain lectins. Now, we're also avoiding some nuts and some seeds. In general, what we're avoiding from the seed perspective is seed oils. So a lot of your seed oils are heavy polyunsaturated fatty oils with high levels of omega-6. High omega-6 can lead to increased inflammation. And what are we trying to do in this first 30 days, especially the second 30, is we're trying to reduce the inflammation. And part of that is setting up your biochemistry where you're not over-consuming high omega-6 to such a degree that, that you put the balance in favor of an inflammatory process. So higher levels of omega-3 during this time frame, lower levels of omega-6. The richest sources of omega-6 in our diets are seed oils and aggressive consumption of nuts and seeds. Now, we're not eliminating all nuts and seeds in this section, but we're eliminating them as staple foods. So we're not going to use cashews as our daily staple food. We're also not going to use massive quantities of flax or pumpkin seed, which are generally healthy seeds. We're just not using them as staples. In essence, you're not replacing peanut butter with pumpkin seed butter. Or even really with almond butter. You want to keep these to a minimum in your diet so that you can help with this omega-6 fatty acid ratio. We're avoiding all processed sugar, which is part of phase 1, but obviously we're continuing that over into phase 2. We're avoiding sugar substitutes. I mentioned last time that safe substitutes would be things like honey, maple, if it's pure organic, as well as birchwood, xylitol, stevia, and monk fruit are some of your options there for sugar substitutes. And then we're also cutting out black tea and coffee. We're also cutting out other sources, primary sources of caffeine, and so that would be chocolate, which, by the way, chocolate is a legume. So, you know, I say ladies, but I don't just mean ladies, but women typically, we have that, you could say that preconceived notion that women enjoy their chocolate more than men, although I've known men that love chocolate too. But we're avoiding chocolate because it's a legume and it has anti-nutrients that can affect many, many people. We're also avoiding it because of the caffeine, which is another reason why we're avoiding the black tea and the coffee. We're trying to basically detoxify your body from being overstimulated. Remember, caffeine is an adrenal stimulant, and what that does, a lot of people, when they're entering into this diet, their adrenal glands are shot. They're in a state of adrenal insufficiency or fatigue, and so they don't have any more capacity to deal or cope with any more stress. So if you bombard your adrenal gland with caffeine as you're trying to come out of this, you're going to have a heck of a time recovering. You're going to have a heck of a time, too, with exercise. One of the big reasons we see people fail in phase 2 is heavy caffeine use. And that heavy caffeine use makes it almost impossible for their adrenal glands to recover and for them to achieve a level of exercise tolerance that's meaningful. So remember, exercise is not going for a walk. Exercise is physical movement, weight resistance, etc. And we want to get you to that point. But if all you can really do is move from point A to point B with minimal physical exertion because your adrenal glands are so shot, then caffeine's not going to help you recover. So in this next part of the phase, that's one of the big reasons why we're avoiding caffeine. Okay, so those are your new ground rules. Now let's have a little conversation about alcohol, because alcohol is out too. Now, alcohol was out last time. Alcohol is out for several reasons. The biggest reason why alcohol is out is it inhibits healing. So alcohol will suppress your body's ability to be able to actually heal. Remember what alcohol does is it contributes to B vitamin deficiencies and mineral deficiencies. Well, what do we need to heal? We need nutrients. That's what B vitamins and minerals are. They're nutrients. Your body cannot heal and repair itself as long as it's malnourished. And so alcohol abuse perpetuates this as a problem. But the other thing alcohol does is it affects your liver, and we need your liver to start coming online and working well, because part of what happens during phase 2 is detox. Now that you're no longer eating things or ingesting foods that your body perceives to be poisons or that are stressing your body, your liver's gonna kick on, and you're gonna start potentially seeing some detoxification occur. And what can happen here is this can lead to some symptoms, what oftentimes doctors refer to as a Herxheimer response. Herxheimer was the name of a doctor who first observed that detoxification symptoms of patients. So we've got, again, detox response that can occur. This could be nausea, this could be gastric bloating, intestinal discomfort, this could be diarrhea or constipation. Herxheimer symptoms could be low-grade fever, malaise, fatigue, And so you want to make sure that you're not burdening your liver, with more to do, because you may already, just going grain-free and going into the no grain, no pain diet, you may already start to herx a little bit. Now, if you are herxing, if you find yourself really struggling, one of the things that you can do kind of to bolster that, or to help with that, is you can use Detox C, which is vitamin C, which can help tremendously with these types of symptoms. The other thing that you can use during this time is we have something called mycobinder, which is a binding agent, and it's got a mixture of zeolite and charcoal, if you will, carbon, that will actually bind to a lot of the toxins as your body's trying to purge. And so using these two things might be helpful, again, if you experience that type of Herxheimer response. Now, if you don't have to worry so much about it, but if you are, those are just tools that you can tap into. But alcohol's out. It causes nutritional deficiency, liver damage at a time where we need our liver to purge our system so that we can get on the other side. And that brings us to another point, which is medication. Many of you may be taking a plethora of different medications, depending on what your problem is. So maybe you've got a diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis, or maybe you have Hashimoto's hypothyroid, or maybe you've got liver damage or liver disease, whatever it is. A lot of you have blood pressure problems or blood sugar problems, and you're taking different medications for different reasons. What I want to warn you about, when you change your diet, one of the things that commonly happens, that I see all the time in my practice, is medicines become too strong. I'm going to give you a few examples. Let's say you're taking blood pressure medicine. You get 2-3 weeks into phase 1, phase 2 of the no grain, no pain plan, and now, before you started the plan, your medicine worked fine, your blood pressure was normal, but as you're going through no grain, no pain, and you've changed your diet, maybe you've dropped, a lot of people drop anywhere from 5 to 25 pounds in the first month. And so what comes with weight loss, what comes with water retention loss, your blood pressure can come down. So what we see a lot of times is people that are on blood pressure medications, their BP, their blood pressure starts to drop, and now their medicine's working too strongly, and now they're tired all the time. So this is one of those things. If you're taking drugs or medicines to control your blood pressure, to control your blood sugar, monitor your pressure and your sugar very closely during this time. This is true also if you're taking thyroid medication, because you get with your doctor and make sure they're monitoring your thyroid levels, because a lot of times, and it doesn't, we're only talking about a month here, 30 days, but it happens this way in a lot of folks where the medicine becomes too strong. So monitor your blood pressure, monitor your glucose or your blood sugar, okay? Because if your blood sugar starts to naturally drop, whatever drug you're using to lower it may start to become too strong, and now your blood sugars are crashing and you're hypoglycemic. It's going to cause fatigue and shortness of breath and dizziness. It can cause nausea. You can pass out. So you want to be cautious, and you want to make sure that you're monitoring these things and letting your doctor know what you're doing. And then again, the other big example is your thyroid. So if you're on thyroid medication, one of the things you get with your doctor and ask them to monitor your TSH. What happens a lot of times during the first 30 days of no grain, no pain, what we'll see is there, depending on what drug you're taking, if you're taking levothyroxine or Synthroid, or if you're taking Tirosint, we'll see that your TSH drops. It goes too low, and if it goes less than 0.5, that means the medicine's becoming too strong. And so again, monitoring that during this time, because if your thyroid medicine becomes too strong, you could get heart palpitations. Some people kind of misinterpret these as AFib, the symptom AFib, atrial fibrillation. You can get trouble sleeping. So you go to bed at night, you can't fall asleep because your thyroid medicine's too strong and it's keeping you awake. We'll see hot flashes. This is especially true in women, and when you're in your late 40s, 50s, 60s, sometimes we'll see hot flashes of thyroid medicine. actually emulating menopause symptoms, and but nobody's looking. Everybody's just making the assumption that the female's going through menopause, when in reality, in many cases, we see that it's the thyroid medicine is becoming too strong. We'll also see excessive sweating become a potential problem as well. We'll see increases in anxiety if that medicine's too high. So just be on the lookout. Again, if you're taking medicines to regulate whatever disease diagnosis that you have, you just want to know that when you make a massive shift in your diet, that your body has such a wondrous ability to heal when you remove poison, that medicines oftentimes become too strong. And so those symptoms of those medicines becoming too strong could start to affect your health in a negative way. So you just have to be aware of that. So if you've got a long list of drugs, no matter what you're taking for whatever disease, you work to continue to monitor those as you're going through the No Grain, No Pain challenge, because you don't want your medicines to become too strong and start hurting you or affecting you in the wrong way. Okay, let's talk a little bit about restaurant dining during this time. So, this is one of the common questions I get is what restaurants are safe to eat at? And the simple answer is don't eat out. Why? Because when you eat out, you cannot control for cross-contamination. I've never been to a restaurant where in their kitchen they controlled for 100% of cross-contamination of gluten. I mean, there are restaurants that make the claim, but when they're claiming to protect you from cross-contamination of gluten, they're really only referring to wheat, barley, and rye. And so most likely your meal is going to have corn in it, it's going to have rice or some other type of grain beyond wheat, barley, and rye. So you get cross-contamination in the meal. The other thing we know is that the food in restaurants, I mean, there may be an exception here or there, but the vast majority of them are not organic. And again, that's one of our rules. You want organic food. You don't want the pesticide exposure. We're trying to purge the poison out. We're not trying to keep bringing it back in. So again, most restaurants are not serving you organically. So between the cross-contamination and the lack of organic consumption of foods and the cooking with seed oils, which is what most restaurants do to enhance the flavor, seed oils and sugar are added to many of the things that come out to the table. You don't want these things. And so it's best to avoid eating out during this time. Now that may seem quite paralyzing to many of you. That's why I have this next slide. Let's roll into it. This is, you just click on this, you can pause the screen and you can take a snapshot, and that takes you straight to our recipe database. And these are No Grain, No Pain approved recipes that you can tap into. We've got hundreds of them housed at Gluten-Free Society for you to access. So make sure you're using that as a resource and really, really try to stay out of those restaurants. And then beyond that, we talked a little bit about this last week, and that's just supporting yourself with nutrients. So if you want an enhanced experience, these are the 4 things that I suggest that anyone initially going gluten-free embark upon. 1 is a high-quality probiotic. 2 is a high-quality multivitamin. 3 is a digestive enzyme to support digestion and extrapolation of nutrients from food. And then number 4 is an omega-3. This is to balance the 6-3 ratio. So the 6-3 ratio in most Americans is usually about 16-1 or higher. And this ratio, so that means you eat 16 times the quantity of omega-3, or 6 is omega-3. So this would be omega-6 up here, this would be omega-3. And that ratio like that drives the inflammation process. And so again, most people coming into this have terrible fatty acid composition when we run their blood work. The average is about 16-1. What we're trying to get this down to is somewhere closer to 2-1 would be more ideal, but no higher than 4-1. Like really that's where a lot of the magic happens in terms of supporting your body's ability to make its way out of an inflammatory state into a very well regulated state where it can now heal and repair damaged tissue from years of dietary digressions into grains and other inflammatory foods. So don't forget, you can also supplement. These are the top 4. There's a lot of people I ask, I get people all the time, they bring in suitcases and there's like 55 pill bottles in their bag. And you could take a lot of things, but this is just my experience. These four, if you're trying to keep it simple over the next 30 days, keep it at these four things. You're going to get the biggest bang for your buck as you're going through the No Grain, No Pain Challenge. What I'd like you to do as you're going through this process is write into us, glutenology@gmail.com. If you're going through it and you're having any kind of struggles, or if you have any specific questions that we didn't talk about or that we didn't answer, easy questions, mind you, don't send me a question that requires my team to write a college dissertation to give you an answer. We can't accommodate for that level of service and experience. But if you've got simple yes/no questions, feel free to email my team and we're going to take care of you as you're going through this process. I'd also like to see your before and afters. Look, if you go through No Grain, No Pain and you lose 25 pounds, 30 pounds, send us those pictures, send us those stories. We want to hear if you have chronic pain and your joints are inflamed every day and you get through this process and your pain goes away or your pain dramatically reduces or you were able to get off of some medications. We want to know about it. We want to know how your journey went so that we can better serve you as we go into 2023 and the future and beyond. Hey, today we've got a really interesting review for you on foods. We've got some gluten-free, grain-free pretzels, which even better in my opinion, grain-free. These are by a company called Savor by Susie. And we're going to try two varieties here. We're going to try the regular pretzel and we're going to try the dark chocolate coated pretzel. So those of you who've been, hunkering for pretzels and hadn't been able to find like a grain-free version, this may be up your alley. So let's give it a go. We're going to do the regular one first. It's always the fun part, standing here, you guys waiting for me to finish chew. Flavors just, going over the palate. That's a good pretzel, actually. I've had other grain-free types of pretzels, and this is actually, I've never had this one before. It's actually better than some of the other ones I've tried. The flavor's better. It hits the notes and it hits the crunch more like what you would remember a true, like a wheat pretzel or a gluten-containing pretzel. So hits the texture a lot better. I would say it could stand to be a little bit more salty, but that's an easy fix. If you like things a little bit more salty, you could probably just add your own. But really good flavor, really good texture. I'd say I'd give it a 9.5 on the taste texture scale as far as emulating an actual gluten-free pretzel. Now let's grade it for its actual ingredients. So we already know that it's gluten-free, it's certified gluten-free, but so that part's good. But if we look at the actual ingredients, we've got cassava flour, potato starch, palm fruit oil, tapioca starch, and then faba bean protein, as well as tapioca syrup, salt, milled flax, and sunflower lecithin. So all in all, these ingredients are all pretty good. I'd say if we're really just nitpicking, tapioca syrup is a form of sugar. And so that obviously that's going to add carbohydrate to this in the form of a simple sugar. So if you're a diabetic or if you're really trying to watch your sugar intake, this may not be the best choice for you. But if you, like I said before, if you're just wanting a pretzel and you're not eating these every day or all the time, it probably would make for a pretty good treat. The other aspect of the ingredient list, so again, most of the ingredients are just fine, but they're not organic, and that would be just one element that I would love to see this company come out with a 100% organic product. That would just, I think, make this product so much more stellar. But it is non-GMO, and so that is definitely a move in the right direction. So we can be fairly certain there's not just a plethora of chemicals and pesticides that we're being doused with when we try to eat this pretzel. So overall, this is a good find, and I would definitely eat these pretzels if I were watching a football game or wanting to have that pretzel feel in my mouth. Now let's go to their chocolate covered ones. These are a little different. I'll go ahead and start with the ingredients on this. So there's two sets of ingredients. Of course, one's the pretzel itself, and the pretzel is the same as the first, but the chocolate ingredients, the coating, we've got unsweetened chocolate, sugar, sunflower lecithin, cocoa butter, and natural vanilla extract. Again, same commentary about the ingredients here. If you're trying to avoid sugar or keep sugar out of your diet, this wouldn't be the right pretzel for you. But chocolate's going to contain sugar typically. Maybe if Susie's watching, maybe she comes out with a stevia variety or with another kind of sweetener alternative variety as well. But again, the ingredients are relatively clean. I'm not a big fan of sugar, but I think on a very rare occasion, it's probably not going to be the thing that tanks your health. So let's give this one a go. Yeah, that's pretty good. It's a nice dark chocolate taste. The salt really comes through better on this pretzel than it did on the other one. I think it's just because chocolate and salt have such a good mix when you put them together. But taste-wise is very solid. I mean, I'd give it a 9 on the taste, 9.5 on the taste. Again, minor improvements. We could make this product 100% organic. It would be better if we could find a natural way to sweeten it without using sugar. It'd also be better. But it is non-GMO and it is grain-free, not just wheat, barley, and rye-free, but grain-free. So on those categories, I give it a thumbs up. And so if you're craving that pretzel, trying to do the least amount of damage that you can, looking for a grain-free option, this is a really solid tasting option for you. Thanks for tuning in. Katie has 2 questions. She wants to know, does gluten cause anemia and can it cause bone loss? So let's back up. Gluten, yes, it absolutely can cause anemia. One of the biggest forms of anemia we see is vitamin B12 deficiency, which can cause a specific type of anemia called macrocytic anemia, which leads to shortness of breath, fatigue, brain fog, muscle aches and pains, and just extreme fatigue. We also see iron deficiency anemia develop in a lot of people with gluten sensitivity because gluten disrupts the absorption of iron. And of course, iron is necessary to form the protein inside of your cells called hemoglobin, which is what carries oxygen to all the tissues of your body so that you can create energy. So 2 kinds of anemia, predominantly B12 and iron deficiency. Now on to part 2 of the question, can gluten cause bone loss? It absolutely can. Some research shows that the malnourishment and the malabsorption caused by gluten damage to the intestines leads to a bone loss caused, again, by nutritional deficits. So things like calcium and zinc and magnesium deficiency, copper, selenium, all these are minerals required for bone health and bone mineralization. When you have malabsorption from gut damage, you can develop bone loss in that way. Now, there's some new research that shows that osteoporosis is also an autoimmune reaction, and we believe that gluten is responsible in part for stimulating this autoimmune reaction against the proteins of bone themselves. So, malnutrition and autoimmunity are both mechanisms by which gluten can induce bone loss. Thanks for asking your question, Katie. Tina writes in saying, where do I start? I'm already gluten-free and have been that way for 8 years. My gut never feels good and I'm at a complete loss. So the first thing I would say, Tina, if you're on a gluten-free diet, you have to ask yourself, are you on a healthy gluten-free diet? I'm going to provide a resource below for you. I want you to register. It's free for my master class on how to go gluten-free the right way. So many people do it and they continue to eat certain foods that mimic gluten. Certain processed additives can mimic gluten. Some medications that people are taking can damage their GI tract and keep them from recovering. And this class covers it all in very great detail. Again, I'm going to put that link just below this video so that you can get free access to the Glutenology Masterclass. Thanks for writing in. Carrie wants to know, why do I still get stomach issues even though I'm gluten-free? Couple of things that you can try, Carrie. Number one, you may have more than just a gluten reaction. It's very common for those with gluten sensitivity also to be reactive to other foods. So you might consider getting with your doctor or a good functional medicine provider and asking them to test you for food reactivity. And it's very important. We're not talking about food allergy as much as we're talking about food sensitivity. They're very different things. And food sensitivity is, again, very, very common after getting off of gluten. The other thing that you might consider is what else you're eating. One of the other reasons people have persistent GI problems on a gluten-free diet is that they're picking all of the wrong foods, the processed gluten-free products that contain corn and rice and xanthan gum and other fillers. Those things can mimic and behave like gluten, creating gastrointestinal issues. And so you might check your diet and make sure you're not getting those things. Now, I'm going to put below this video a link to my master class where I go into depth about all of these things, and it's free for you to watch. You just have to register. Again, it's called the Glutenology Masterclass, and I think if you check that out, you might find a more in-depth answer for why your GI issues are persisting even though you're gluten-free. Mila writes in with this question: is it true that for someone who is not gluten sensitive that going on a gluten-free diet will actually cause them to become gluten sensitive later? Answer: no. Gluten sensitivity, you either have it or you don't, right? And it's very much a genetic issue. If you have the genes that predispose you to react to gluten and you consume gluten, your body will produce an inflammatory response against that gluten. So stopping gluten and then reintroducing it won't make you more sensitive. Again, you either have the genes or you don't. If you want to learn more about the genetics of gluten sensitivity, I'm going to put a link below this video that you can check out and learn all about gluten and genetics and gluten reactions. Thanks for asking your question. Sandy writes in, she wants to know, why does gluten cause severe migraines and just general malaise when I eat it? Very simply put, gluten is a neurotoxin. There have been a number of research studies connecting gluten as a trigger to migraine headaches. So if you've got migraines and you don't know why, going gluten-free might just be a smart move for you to make. Now, I'm going to put a comprehensive article below on migraines and migraine triggers, including gluten, for you so that you can learn a little bit more about that and that connection between gluten and headaches. Thanks for sending your question in. So Mika writes in and asks, what's the best supplement to take if I'm having gluten withdrawal symptoms? This is a great question. Many people going off of gluten can have almost like a withdrawal, like a drug addiction, like withdrawal reaction that can include headaches, low-grade fever, chills, shakes, irritability, mood swings, muscle cramps, muscle spasms, common symptoms of gluten withdrawal. Now, if you're struggling in that regard, some things that you can do to help support your body to offset that, two of my favorite. Number one is vitamin C at higher doses. Vitamin C is actually used in a lot of addiction clinics. A lot of doctors will use high doses of vitamin C to help their patients overcome withdrawal symptoms. So I like a good 5 grams of vitamin C for an adult. Now, another nutrient that might be very helpful is vitamin B3, also used in many addiction clinics to help with withdrawal symptoms. So vitamin C and vitamin B3, also referred to sometimes as niacin, might be extremely helpful. Now, one other thing that you might consider taking as well is just a really solid multivitamin. Many people going gluten-free are severely malnourished, and so getting off that gluten, along with those side effects and along with the gluten-induced malnutrition, just adding that multivitamin in can really help support the body's ability to heal and recover. So a good quality multi, a good quality high-dose vitamin C, and a very good quality vitamin B3. Those three would be the things I would say. Start with that. Won't hurt you, but it might very well help support you on your way. I'm going to put some links to some of our favorite gluten-free supplements below for you, and you can go check those out. Mara writes in with a pretty lengthy question. She says, I have celiac disease and have been totally gluten-free and soy-free for 12 years. I get horrible peripheral neuropathy pain all over my arms and legs fairly consistently, and doctors don't know why or what to do for me other than medicate me with gabapentin, which I refuse. Is my peripheral neuropathy related to celiac disease? Well, it's hard to say, Mara. There's a lot of things that go into the development of peripheral neuropathy. Certainly celiac disease and the malnutrition that comes with it can cause neuropathy. That's very well studied. I've seen that clinically a number of times. Now, that being said, you should ask your doctors, if they haven't, to check you for nutritional deficiencies, because peripheral neuropathy is oftentimes a manifestation of B vitamin deficiency, particularly B12, B5, B1, and folate. So those 4 B vitamins are notorious for contributing to the neurological symptoms associated with celiac disease. It's because celiac causes malnutrition. So, even though you've been gluten-free for years, you may have dug such a nutritional hole for yourself that your nerves need extra B vitamins in order to heal and repair. So ask your doctors to measure those nutrients, and it's important to make sure that you ask them to measure intracellular, not serum levels, but intracellular levels. Serum levels give you false normals oftentimes. So you get the test and it shows everything looks good, but in actuality, inside of your cells, you don't have enough of those B vitamins. So ask for intracellular levels. The other thing that you might want to consider, there's 2 other very big things that I have seen cause persistent peripheral neuropathy in people after going off of gluten. Number 1 is other food reactions. If you haven't asked your doctors to measure those other food reactions, you could have some other food reactions that are contributing to nerve damage, so get those checked out. Number 2, mold toxicity. I see this all the time in people who are in environmental mold. Their house has water damage or there's some type of mold internally, and so they are developing nerve damage as a result of exposure from mold toxins. And so, again, you can ask your doctor to measure you for mycotoxin levels. So you've got 3 pieces of homework there. B vitamins, ask your doctor to measure the intracellular. Other food reactions, ask to measure for food sensitivity. And then mold, ask your doctor to measure for mycotoxins. And those 3 things just might give you the answer that you've been missing for these last 12 years. Renata writes in and asks, why does digestion slow down during menopause, and what can I do about it? So Renata, one of the things that's recently been discovered is that estrogen is very important for GI tract function. And so going through menopause, a lot of women's estrogen levels will drop. I don't know if you've had your estrogen levels measured. Might be a good idea that you visit your OB-GYN or other doctor and have those measured and see just how low they actually are. There are certain medicines that you can take, like bioavailable or bioidentical estrogen drugs, which would have to be prescribed by your doctor. But some people opt for some natural things that can interfere, I shouldn't say interfere, I should say interact with your estrogen receptors. And so these are often referred to as adaptogens. And some of the best estrogen adaptogens are things like Vitex, Agnus Castus, and black cohosh. As a matter of fact, we have a formula called Women's Balance, and that formula is used in some of these situations to support digestion. Now, you might also consider that menopause has nothing to do with it, and that age and the advanced age is actually playing a role here. One of the things that happens in the GI tract as we age is there can be a slowdown of digestive enzyme and digestive acid secretion. And so you might have a problem with the quantity of enzymes and acid that you're producing to help digest your food. This can also slow down motility. So you might try supplementing with a digestive enzyme. You might try supplementing with something like a digestive acid like betaine hydrochloride. Some people also take a couple of teaspoons of apple cider vinegar before a meal and see if that helps to improve their digestion and motility. So check those things out. Come back and let us know how they worked out for you. My favorite place on earth, I've got to go with Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. There's no place like home. I live on a farm, so when I go home, you know, I've got all the things I love. I've got my wife, my son, my animals, and my haven, my safe haven. So I've traveled a lot. I've been to all 50 states in the U.S. Most recently, hit the 50th state on my 50th birthday. That was pretty cool. And a lot of nice places, a lot of fantastic places to go. I'd say if you ever get a chance to check out Yellowstone National Park, definitely beautiful place, surreal to visit. Rocky Mountains, Estes National Park's another great place. I love to go hike there. I like the Caribbean. Cancun is a fantastic place to go. Aruba was wonderful. I enjoyed Italy, enjoyed Germany, but none of them compare to home. At the end of the day, when you go on a vacation, it's always nice, and there's kind of a fun feel to it, and there's always great experience that can be had when you travel. But I think at the end of the day, if I could choose one place that I had to stay, I would pick home sweet home. Hey, thanks for tuning in to Dr. Osborne's Zone. I'm going to leave you with a motivational story, one of the most successful no grain, no pain stories to date. So check this out and grab your weekly motivation.
My job requires me to travel quite a bit, and the issues I was having, multiple, but I was diabetic, and I also had high blood pressure, which I'd had for a number of years. Started to having symptoms in addition to that where my muscles, I had muscle weakness, muscle soreness, neuropathy. Then I began to have a bit of twitching with the muscles. I had a skin rash that developed, interestingly enough, in both kind of the pits of my elbows.
Thanks for tuning in to the Dr. Osborne Zone. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe for more content like this, and make sure you come back next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time and Thursday at noon 30 for more episodes.